Hi there, and welcome to The Daily Gardener, an almanac of garden history, literature, and small botanical joys. I'm Jennifer Ebling, and today is July 17th. Happy birthday, honey. By July, sometimes the garden is so overgrown in spots, it's ridiculous. And yes, I did allow the appropriate spacing between the plants. I read the tag, I left the recommended distance, I followed the rules, but it didn't matter. July happens, and suddenly the catmint is leaning into the salvia, and the salvia is growing into the phlox, and the phlox is having an outright affair with the Joe Pye weed in the back of the bed. The path that was a path in May is now just a suggestion in spots. The stepping stones, hidden. The edge of the lawn, negotiable. But that's all part of it. Some things race ahead, others take their time. Some plants grow into the perfect size they were promised on the tag, and some plants decide that the tag was only a guideline. So what do? You go get the pruners, the hand shears, maybe the electric clipper if it's gotten really out of hand, and you make decisions. You cut the catmint back hard. You lift the leaning lily and stake it. You tell the phlox, I love you, but you've gotten a little carried away here. The garden does not hold a grudge. The garden actually feels better when you step in and quietly remind it who lives where. That's the July trick. Here's today's garden history. It was on this day, in 1918, that the English naturalist and former Anglican priest, Clarence Bicknell, died at his mountain summer house in the Italian Alps at the age of 75. Clarence spent the last 40 years of his life in those mountains, painting wildflowers and cataloging Bronze Age rock carvings. But he hadn't started out as a naturalist. He started out as a priest. Born in London in 1842, Clarence was the son of a wealthy whale oil merchant. When he was 7, his mother Lucinda died. She was his first art teacher. Within a year, his father remarried and sent him away to boarding school. As a young man, Clarence went up to Cambridge and became an Anglican priest. But by his mid-30s, he no longer believed. His writings from those years are the prose of a man who didn't know what he believed anymore. So in 1878, at 36, Clarence took what was supposed to be a brief assignment, seasonal chaplain of the Anglican Church in Bordighera, a small Italian Riviera town. He never left. By his second year in Bordighera, Clarence gave up the pulpit. The man who spent a decade wrestling with doubt just quietly put down the prayer book and picked up a sketchbook and began to walk. He noticed the wildflowers, and he started painting them. Within a few years, Clarence had painted more than 1,000 local wildflowers and founded the Museo Bicknell, the first museum in the region. In 1906, at 64, he built himself a summer house in the valley, Casa Fontanelba, and moved up into the mountains each summer for the rest of his life. At Casa Fontanelba, Clarence kept a visitor's book. Every guest who came to see him was asked to sign the book and to paint a wildflower beside their signature. The book survives, and it's full of small painted flowers by scientists, friends, local villagers, and children. For a man who had once served communion at an altar, this was a kind of secular sacrament. No one leaves my home without stopping to look at a flower. Clarence died at Casa Fontanelba in the last months of the First World War. He was 75. Since then, thousands of items from his life have been cataloged. It turns out a man history nearly forgot left 38,000 pieces of himself behind. Every time I stop in the garden and really look at a wildflower, I always think of Clarence, the ex-priest in the Italian Alps, asking his guests to stop and paint a wildflower. And it was on this day in 1865 that the American museum curator and late-blooming painter Rubens Peale died in Philadelphia at 81. Rubens was born in 1784 into the most celebrated artistic family in America. His father, Charles Wilson Peale, was the greatest portraitist of the Revolution. His brothers, Raphael, Rembrandt, and Titian, were named for the great painters of Europe. And then each one of them became a painter. But Rubens could not. His eyes were weak from childhood, and the glasses he wore were so heavy and thick that painting, the family trade, was out of his reach. What Rubens could do instead was tend plants. As a teenager, he cared for a rare flower that had recently arrived in America, a geranium said to be the first ever grown on the continent. At 17, Rubens sat for his portrait holding that geranium. His brother Rembrandt painted him with 2 pairs of glasses, one on his nose and a spare clipped to his coat. He spent years running museums until financial hardship forced him to sell everything to P.T. Barnum. Rubens retired to a family farm in the Pennsylvania countryside, and there, for the next 20 years, he grew flowers. He was 71 years old when, one autumn day in 1855, Rubens sat down, picked up a brush for the first time in his life, and began to paint a flower. For the next 10 years, Rubens painted. He once painted a single bouquet gathered over a full year. Every blossom he waited for as the seasons turned, arranged on his canvas at last. And at the bottom of the painting, on the bowl that held the flowers, he inscribed a medallion, R.P. to C.W.P., Rubens Peale to Charles Wilson Peale, a gift to his son, who was named after Rubens' own father. In the last decade of his life, Rubens made 130 paintings. He died just after the end of the Civil War in the city where he was born. Some of his late paintings hang today at the Philadelphia Museum of Art, the Metropolitan, and the National Gallery. Each one a flower from his own garden. And each one painted by a man who waited 71 years to paint. In today's Unearthed Words, we hear a diary entry from the writer Susan Wittig Elbert, written on this day, July 17th in 2008, from her book, An Extraordinary Year of Ordinary Days. Susan wrote, "Gardening here at the edge of the arid West may be a challenge, but I'm looking at wild food. This morning, the Mustang grapevine is heavy with tart purple-red fruits, shining with a silvery sheen. The name Mustang comes from the Spanish word mesteño, meaning wild or untamed. The raccoons have stripped the grapes they can reach, but there's plenty for everybody. The juice makes a tart jelly very good. I've read that it also makes an interesting wine. Nearby, a clump of prickly pear cactus, brash with spines, thriving in this summer's drought. Boiled or grilled, the pads are a tasty, nutritious vegetable. The fruits make a splendid jelly. All around, the ubiquitous mesquites, also drought-tolerant, with their hefty crop of beans. Red mulberry, chokeberry, Mexican plum, all fruiting now. In another 3 months, pecans, wild fruits, native abundance. No cornucopia, but there's food here for people who know what to look for and how to use it. It's time to grow that garden library with today's book, A Breath from Elsewhere by Mirabelle Osler. We close Garden Memoirs Week today with a book unlike any other this week, because Mirabelle Osler is unlike any other garden writer. She didn't begin writing until her 60s. By then, she'd already lived several lives. Mirabelle and her husband Michael taught English in Thailand, where they adopted a 2.5-year-old girl, the abandoned daughter of a Thai nobleman who had to be bundled into a car and presented with the adoption papers before he would sign. They named her Serene. After years abroad, the Oslers returned to England. Michael died in 1989. Mirabelle moved to Ludlow, and for a full year, she planted nothing. She simply stood in the garden and thought about what it could be. Then, she planted the garden she had imagined and began to write. Her first book, A Gentle Plea for Chaos, became a bestseller. In A Breath from Elsewhere, she goes deeper. She said, "Gardens are refuges. In search of replenishment, we retreat to them as to a safe haven. They have none of the threatening attributes to be found in more dramatic escapes: lone voyages, wilderness, deserts, or drugs. There's no need to pit your endurance against the elements, to feel challenged or prove yourself to yourself. Gardens act as a solace and a panacea. We use them in a variety of ways, for inspiration or freedom, for discovery or surrender." And then, toward the end of the book, writing from the far side of loss, Mirabelle said this: "There is nothing welcome in the dramatic metamorphosis that is forced on you when you are left alone with a garden at the end of your life. What happens is internal. Whether the garden is being transformed before your eyes, or whether it lies in a state of suspension, the quintessence of a garden is carried within yourself." A Breath from Elsewhere by Mirabelle Osler, and a quiet, honest end to Garden Memoirs Week. And finally, here's something sweet to ignite the little botanic spark in your heart. It was on this day in 2018 that the British nature writer Kate Bradbury published her memoir. Years earlier, Kate's long relationship had ended, and she was sofa surfing her way through London with nowhere to land. When her budget finally got her a flat of her own, it was a damp basement in Brighton with a tiny backyard that was completely paved over with decking. Builder's rubble beneath it, no soil worth its name, nothing growing. So Kate started pulling the decking up all alone, plank by plank. She hauled out the rubble. She restored the earth. She put up bee hotels and bird boxes. And she planted nectar-rich plants and pollen-rich plants, anything that would feed the small wild things she loved. Around her, neighbors were paving over their gardens. Kate kept planting anyway. And then, in the middle of all of it, the phone rang. Kate's mother, Beck Solly Hull, on the edge of Birmingham, suffered a catastrophic stroke. Kate dropped everything and drove north. For months after that, her life became motorway miles between Brighton and Birmingham, a hospital room, a waiting chair, the long limbo of not knowing. And while Kate was away, sitting beside her mother, the garden she built in Brighton kept carrying on without her. The sparrows were still bathing in her pond. The red mason bees were still nesting in the bee hotel. The garden was keeping faith when Kate couldn't. Her mother survived. And on the 17th of July in 2018, the book Kate had been writing through all of it came into the world. She called it The Bumblebee Flies Anyway. It became a promise. Even on the days when your mother is lying in a hospital bed and your garden is half built, the bumblebee is still out there, landing on the flowers you planted last Tuesday. I always think about Kate every time I leave my garden for a few days and come home to find that everything is carried on beautifully without me. The garden doesn't wait for us. And on the hardest days, that is not a slight. It is a mercy. As we close the show today, remember, the overgrown garden is not a failure. It's just July being July. You didn't do anything wrong. You spaced the plants, you read the tags, you followed the rules. And then the rain came. And then the heat came. And the sun stayed long into the evening. And the plants did what plants do. They grew. So this week, go out with your pruners, cut the catmint back, lift the leaning stems, reclaim the path. The garden won't mind. That's the July trick. A little pruning, a little grace. The garden never expected perfection, only your care. Thanks for listening to The Daily Gardener. And remember, for a happy, healthy life, garden every day.